Hi there, this is Ranjit, and in this video we'll be doing the review for both the Pixel 7 and the 7 Pro, and I've been actually using them for the past 3 weeks. Initial 4 days I used the Pixel 7 Pro, then I used the Pixel 7 for quite a bit of time, and last 5 days I've been using the 7 Pro. So in this video I'll give you an idea of what do I feel about these devices, and I've made a lot of notes and again a lot of pros and even cons, as you can see. So, and I've also written down the summary, so let's go over it. And overall I would say these Pixel smartphones are one of the finest smartphones released by Google till date, and I was a little bit worried when I started reviewing these smartphones because if you notice, the Pixel 6 series was not that great. It had a lot of bugs and issues, but luckily I did not find major bugs with the Pixel 7 and the 7 Pro. I noticed some bugs and I'll mention, but again it's a small bug. I noticed they can squash it with the software update. But okay, first again it comes down to the size also and the budget. The 7 Pro is slightly pricier, around 85,000 in India, and the 7 is about 60,000. This is without the offers. There were some offers running. If you apply that, then it goes down. So it comes down to the size also, and I feel if you generally don't like these bigger size phones, then you will like the Pixel 7. This is having a 6.3-inch screen, so fits beautifully in the hand. It's neither too big nor small, so perfect size I would say, whereas the Pro obviously is bigger at 6.7-inch screen. This one actually has that 120 Hz LTPO. This is actually having a 90 Hz screen, so that's regarding that. But regarding the screen quality, I did not have an issue with both these smartphones. The AMOLED quality, the panel that they have used is actually very good. Also, these have enough brightness that even if you use it outdoors and if you keep it on auto brightness, that's called adaptive, it handles it very well. So even in situations where the sunlight was falling directly on the screens, I did not have any issues for the legibility on both the devices. Next, if we talk about the thing I noticed is fingerprint scanner is very reliable on both these phones. This is the Pro, and I didn't have any issues, and that's the same case even with the Pixel 7, and this is actually a huge improvement compared to the Pixel 6 series. Even the 6a had a flaky fingerprint scanner, so it looks like Google has definitely solved it. Also now with both these smartphones, you can also use face unlock if you want. I didn't use it because the fingerprint scanner was so reliable, but you can even use the face unlock if you really want. Okay, moving to the next thing is the build quality. Coming to the build quality, both actually look very premium in terms of build quality. It's glass over this aluminum frame, and the build quality is definitely, it's a premium smartphone, guys. So in terms of build quality, you don't have to worry. No corners cut. It actually feels super premium to hold also if when you're holding it. The only thing is that the back glass is that glossy kind of a thing, so at least in the black color the fingerprints are more visible on the black one compared to these lighter shades. But build quality, no issues. Excellent job that Google has done. Now moving to one thing that I like on both these ones, in fact they don't claim anything like Atmos or anything, but the stereo speakers on both these smartphones is again among the best that I've seen on Android smartphone. It gets actually pretty loud, but also at max volume it doesn't crackle and still has slight a bit of depth on this one. So that way the stereo speakers, Google has done an excellent job. And another thing, this is a small thing people will say, but I test so many smartphones, and I have to say again on these Pixel, both the 7 and the 7 Pro, the haptic feedback that Google got is actually one of the best in Android. No Samsung smartphone, Motorola or any other smartphone comes to the haptic feedback quality what you get on both these smartphones, and it's within the across the entire operating system, so you feel that haptic feedback everywhere, and it's done brilliantly. I would say one of the best among Android smartphone, and you slowly start appreciating, because earlier I was using the Moto Edge Ultra. That also a very fast one. In fact, the processor is faster than this one, but I felt I enjoyed using this much a little bit more, and the only reason I could get it, because that had 144 Hz screen, this is 120, is the haptic feedback quality on these smartphones. So that is done great. Regarding moving to the processor on this one is having the custom Tensor G2 processor. Earlier it was the Tensor G1, and I was also very skeptical about this one because this is essentially made by Samsung on 5nm process, and the earlier G1 actually that came with the Pixel 6, 6 Pro and even the 6a, that definitely had heating issues. That used to heat up quite a bit even with normal usage. I'm happy to say that this Pixel 7 and the 7 Pro do not heat up as much as the Pixel 6. Yes, or just on mobile data, if you're just continuously using, yes, it gets a little bit warm, but nevertheless, it never gets uncomfortably hot, I would say. So that way, in terms of thermals, they have done a good job. In terms of processing power also, yes, this is slight bumped up compared to the G1, but if you're just looking for benchmarks, then these are not the best in the terms of benchmarks. If you want the best scoring smartphones in terms of benchmarks for Android, then again, it's the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. But in day-to-day performance, no issues whatsoever. Yes, it still gets slightly warm with usage and extended camera usage, but it doesn't get uncomfortably hot. That was a con for me. For example, with Pixel 6a, when I was testing it with extensive usage, I always felt that it was getting excessively hot. That is not the case with this one. Yes, it gets warm, but not hot. That I will not recommend it. Anyways, moving to the next one. Coming to the UI and all these things, again, completely stock kind of experience on both these smartphones that you're getting, and it's a very clean experience that you're getting. That's what you expect with these stock Android smartphones. Good thing is that out of the box, these come with Android 13, so you don't have to worry about that. So you're getting latest version of Android, and Google is promising next 5 years of security update. But in terms of Android updates, only 3 years of Android updates. I wish they gave 4 years. But again, very, very fluid, I would say. No issues whatsoever. And even the memory management has been done very well. The base variant of the Pixel 7 comes with 8 gigabytes of RAM, whereas the Pro comes with 12 gigabytes of RAM. But even in this 8 gigabyte RAM variant, I never faced issues of RAM management. There is a bug, I'll talk about it in the con section, but overall I would say no issues, and many of the apps that need to be in memory like Truecaller, MyGate and all those things never get booted out. So memory management has been done very well on both these smartphones, and very, very fluid operation. And add to that haptic feedback that you get on this one, that makes the whole experience that premium level experience that you are getting with this one. Other Android manufacturers should start paying attention to the haptic feedback. That's my frank opinion. I didn't do a lot of gaming. I'm not a hardcore gamer, but I did play some games on both these smartphones. For example, Call of Duty, and I could play the Call of Duty and all those things in high settings, not an issue. But again, with extended gaming, the handset tends to get a little bit warm. So I would say, yes, you can do gaming with this smartphone. If you're a casual gamer, about half an hour or so every day you use for gaming, it's okay. But if you are a person who's specifically getting this smartphone just for gaming, then I will not recommend you this one, because I feel in the Android world you have far better smartphones. If you're just looking for gaming centric smartphone, look for some of the smartphones that comes with the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 in that case. Anyways, moving to the next thing is regarding the battery life. Here I was a little bit worried about the battery life, but I'm happy to say that battery life is not an issue. And in fact, in terms of battery life, very surprisingly, both these, the 7 and the 7 Pro, will give you very similar battery life. Though this one is having a bigger screen, bigger battery capacity, 5000 milliampere, but it has also a bigger screen, 6.8 inch at 120 hertz. So the battery life that I was getting on both these smartphones is very, very similar. In terms of screen on time, if I have to talk, and this is the full day of usage, and both of them actually, even at full day of usage with some days with heavy usage, battery life never dipped below 20% at the end of the day at 11:30. So that way it's a full day phone, but I won't say this is actually a 2-day phone. That is the thing that I have noticed. In terms of screen on time, anywhere I was getting from about 5 hours of SOT to about 7 hours of SOT. And you might say 5 hours of SOT, this is again with mostly outdoor usage and stuff like that, guys. As the camera centric smartphone, I was taking more photographs with this one. If I have to compare it with some of the popular Android smartphones, for example, I was also earlier using the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. So Ultra, we have to compare it with the bigger brother, the Pro. And the Ultra used to give me in my typical day of usage about 5 to 5.5 hours of battery life. This is giving me, in the same scenario, approximately about 45 minutes to 1 hour extra of screen on time. So in fact, in terms of battery life, I would say this is slightly better than the S22 Ultra. So battery life, not an issue. This is typically, I would say, good battery life for Android flagship. Still, yes, it's not beating some of the smartphones that comes with Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. For example, Motorola Edge 30 Ultra gives me about 7 hours of SOT. But again, needless to say, for most of the users, 95% of the users, if you're using an existing flagship Android smartphone, you'll be happy with the battery life of this one. Moving to the next thing, and that's the speciality of Pixel. That's the camera. And again, cameras are the big difference again between the regular one. Has two cameras. Fortunately, the main camera is same on both of them. It's a 50 megapixel f1.9 with OIS and all those things. The second is actually ultra wide. Again, on both, it's actually a 12 megapixel. But for some reason, on the Pro, on the regular one, ultra wide is just ultra wide. Whereas on the Pro, the ultra wide does the job of actually two things. That is ultra wide, of course, and even macro. And of course, you have one extra camera that is actually a proper 48 megapixel, and this is actually 5x optical zoom. So that telephoto zoom that you're looking at, you have a dedicated camera on this one. Front, again, both of them having the same camera. This is that punch hole kind of a thing. Again, as you can fingerprint very well, punch hole, and it's a 10.8 megapixel. And here are some of the camera samples that I have taken with both these smartphones, and you guys judge and let me know what do you feel about the camera performance. In terms of HDR, Pixel just shines, as you can see with the shot, and indoor shots come out good. This was the regular shot, and this was with the portrait bokeh mode. Most of the time the portrait bokeh mode come out good, but notice the background blurring around the hair. I feel it's not done well. Now moving to zoom, this was regular 1x, this was 2x zoom, this is that 5x zoom, and finally this was actually 10x zoom. Regular mode, the pictures look good, as you can see, but in portrait mode it zooms in, and also the contrast is a little bit excessive, I feel. Pics at night and low lighting also actually come out good. But with tricky lighting, the white balance can go for a toss, as you can see in this one. But this one, I would say, came out very good. So in dull lighting also, it does a good job. So guys, recording this sample with the Pixel 7 Pro's rear-facing camera, and this is in 4K. And I'm just moving around in a sunny area and a shadowed area to see how it is handling abrupt exposure. Now I'm going in the shadowed area. And it will be you just walk, so we'll also know the stabilization. There is also an enhanced stabilization option. I haven't enabled it, and there is also an enhanced speech option. I haven't enabled. This is in the normal mode, so you can judge the video quality of the Pixel 7 and the 7 Pro. It's actually the same even for the Pixel 7. This is the 7 Pro. You can zoom in. Prithvi, try to zoom in within the video. Okay. This is what? How much zoom?
2x zoom.
Okay, 2x. We can even do that 5x zoom within the video. Just do that.
Okay.
So
that's
yeah,
5x now.
it goes very nice. So even video you can do. Just zoom that now. So do let me know what do you feel about the video quality with the rear-facing camera of the Pixel 7 Pro. What I have done is I have enabled the speech enhancement mode. I don't know what happens with that one. Please follow me, na? I'm just walking around to see how what difference does it make. Now this is with speech enhanced. Again, everything else is the same, 4K and all this. Now another quick video sample, and again the speech enhancement is also there with the front facing camera, and I'm just walking around. So maybe if the audio is a lot clearer with this one, this might be a good option for vlogging and stuff like that. So again, you can go slightly wider or zoom in even with the front facing camera. Okay guys, so these were the good things about this one. Now let's move to the cons section. Some of the things that I noticed after using these smartphones for a couple of weeks. The first thing is that both of these smartphones again are flagship, so they do support wireless charging, reverse wireless charging. But one thing I noticed is that I personally use wireless chargers in my car, and I noticed that both of these smartphones were having issues with wireless charging in my car, and I was scratching my head. Yes, I could make it work at certain angles, but most of the time it was stopping charging. I checked it on my BMW, I had the same issue, and I also checked it on a Nexon EV that I had access to, and both of them were having issues. And I think so that is the reason for that is you have this hump over here, and again because of that hump, the back, when it sits on a wireless charger, is not totally flush. It's at a particular angle, and I think so that is actually causing the issues. It was not like I could not charge it, but most of the time it was just stopping the wireless charging. So that is something that I have noticed with home wireless charger, where I could just place it accurately, I didn't have an issue. But in cars, I tested with 2 different cars, I had problem. Fortunately, I did test wireless Android Auto and even wired Android Auto. That was not an issue. But wireless charging in cars, yes, I noticed an issue with both these smartphones. Next thing is, again, coming to the charging. Again, you don't get the charger in the box. It's you have to use a PD3 charger, 30 watts and above, and I did test with that. I have a third-party charger which actually even shows me the voltage and all those things. And the fact is that though they claim it's a 30-watt charger, it's about the maximum current that it pulls is just about 22 watts. And for both of them, actually the charging is not that fast. If you completely drain it very low, let's say 2-3%, it will take you almost 1 hour 45 minutes, slightly more than that, for it to completely charge. So that way I would say charging is not very quick in this age, where we are seeing other Android smartphones that completely charge within 30 minutes, waiting about 1 hour 45 minutes or something. This is a sore point, I would say, and I think so it's high time Pixel in the next series pay attention to faster charging. So I was used to very quick charging in the morning, just plugging in for 20-25 minutes. That I simply could not do with this smartphone. So for these smartphones, I had to change my habit, and I was just putting it at charge before going to sleep. If you do that, that's fine, but that super quick charging is not there on these. Okay, moving to the next thing is, again, as I've told you, there is one small bug that I noticed, and I noticed this twice. Right now, as you can see, it's super fluid. Everything is very fluid. But sometimes after a week of usage or something, I think so there is a memory leak or something in this one, because the scrolling will become very choppy in most of the Twitter and everything and all this thing. And I didn't need to actually reboot it. What I had to do was I had to just close all the apps and it fixed. So there is a memory leak on the smartphone, and this doesn't happen immediately. After a week or 10 days of usage only that happens, but it's quickly fixable, and I think this is a bug. This should be squashed very quickly. Apart from that, very smooth in scrolling. Even this one, though this is 90 hertz, it's actually fluid on this smartphone. Next thing is, again, this is a small nitpicking that I have, because most of the other Android smartphones have fixed this. This has Gorilla Glass Victus, that's not a problem. But again, if you notice, as I've told earlier also, this is actually not a matte glass. So this attracts the fingerprints like crazy. Oops. Sorry about that. So this attracts the fingerprints like crazy. So that is something that I've noticed. They should have gone with a matte, backing, like most of the other Android premium smartphones are using. That's not that much visible on these lighter colors. So that is also something that you guys need to note. Now moving to some things that I did not like that Google did intentionally, I would say, on these smartphones. For example, on the Pixel 7, though they have the wide angle camera, that's a 12 megapixel, they didn't enable the macro mode. They could have easily done that. So they are just doing it to differentiate between these two smartphones. They should have actually implemented even the macro mode, but that is only on the Pro version. And another thing is that at this price point, again, if you don't talk about the discounts and all those things, credit card discounts, even the Pixel 7 is at 60,000, so it's a premium. But this one max out at about 90 hertz, which again I feel is a bummer, because in the Android world, most of the smartphones that cost above 35,000 all come with 120 hertz. So this is where I feel Google did slight cost cutting. But again, if you're not using other smartphones with 120 hertz, you will eventually get used to this 90 hertz, and 90 hertz is actually pretty decently smooth, I would say. Yes, it's obviously a little bit more smoother with 120, but you will get used to it. So this is one nitpicking that I have. Next thing is, again, both of them have this new feature in video called cinematic blur, and that works only with the rear facing camera. It simply does not work with the front facing camera for some reason as of now, and I would say this is sort of a beta feature, because it's not as good as found on the iPhone 13 Pro or even the 14 Pro. So cinematic blur, if you are expecting a lot from that one, I feel that that should have been labeled as of now as beta. I just hope with updates it improves, but as of now, in a professional setting or somewhere, I would not recommend using the cinematic mode. Anyways, moving to the next one is I'm still waiting for the 5G OT updates. Don't worry, both these smartphones have all the 5G bands required, so that's not a problem. But again, that 5G, that OTA update for 5G has still not come on both these smartphones in India, and Google hasn't given any time frame. So I'm just hoping by November, and hopefully keeping my fingers crossed, we get that OT update. Next minor quibble is that why only 128 gigabyte variant is sold in India. I was checking Flipkart and there is no option of 256 gigabyte or even the 512 gigabyte. Forget about the 512 gigabyte, 512 gigabyte, but they could have launched even the 256 gigabyte variant. A person who's spending this much might opt for the 256 gigabyte variant, but in India, Google has launched only the 128 gigabyte variant. And lastly, why only Flipkart? Because these are definitely premium Android smartphones, and they are just limiting with to Flipkart as of now. They should have also introduced these in offline stores like Chroma and Reliance Digital, in my frank opinion. So guys, these were the pros and cons. I have actually written down the summary, so let me actually read the summary. What do I feel about this smartphone? So okay, here the summary goes. The Pixel 7 series of smartphones are the best Pixel smartphones launched by Google, period. This time I'm glad that there were no major deal-breaking bugs like the Pixel 6 series had. And this is a super polished Android smartphone experience that we are getting. I feel these Pixel 7 and the 7 Pro are the best Android smartphones overall I have tested in 2022. In terms of pricing also, Google got it sort of right if we are comparing it to the pricing of the Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus or the S22 Ultra in India. And I feel it's a bargain if we start comparing it with the pricing of the iPhone 14 Pro in India. Still not perfect, as I've mentioned in the review. There are definitely some cons and some shortcomings. But still, I would say these are one of the best Android smartphones out there, and I have no issues recommending these smartphones to my friend and family members. So guys, this was my review of the Pixel 7 and the 7 Pro. What do you feel about this one? And which one would you go, the Pixel 7 or the 7 Pro? I feel, as I've told you, for most users, I would say, if you're not too much bothered about that 5x telephoto major zoom and you don't like that super big phones, I feel the Pixel 7 works. But again, if you're okay with big size phones and everything, and you're okay with the slightly premium price of the Pro, then Pro is also a good option. But what do you guys feel? Do let me know in the comment section below. Anyways guys, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. This is Ranjit and I hope to see you in my next video. Take care guys.